Welcome to Revelations, the place where we speak truth to power. I'm Cole Johnson, and I'm so glad you're able to join us. How should I describe my next guest? After surviving dreams of being deferred and crushed, she now attempts to pour into those who lack that soul crushing scenario. She helps employers, businesses, brands, and herself reach new heights with all of a little pollination. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, business coach, business consultant, and author, Debby Krusz. But she goes by Krusz. And this is her revelation. So, how are you doing?
I'm well. How are you?
I am doing well myself. I'm so glad you're able to join me. Uh, I saw everything that you offered, everything that you've done thus far, and what you're doing now, and it just leapt off the page at me, and it intrigued me. So I had to get you on board because I had to get to know the person behind this wonderful brilliance that you have put forth. And we shall start doing that by opening the way. Now, when you open the way, conversation starts when vulnerability enters the room. So, you are a product of Westchester County, New York. Uh, how was life like that as a little girl?
I mean, I have nothing really to complain about. I mean, it's a beautiful place. We live, I live a few blocks away from the water, so there's amazing views. There's one park that looks directly at New York City and Long Island, so
Mhm.
it's beautiful to watch sunsets and to watch the city skyline along with the bridges and to see Long Island. And you could take your boat straight across and be there in like 45 minutes, which is much better than sitting in traffic. So.
I bet.
So yeah, I mean it is a beautiful place. So I'm very grateful to be here. I think I watched the evolution of well now more than anything, but growing up having the city be the most exciting place in the world. You know, New York City couldn't be more of a melting pot. And once the 90s, later 90s came around, people really realizing going to the city could be a little exhausting. So, trying to bring a lot of what is in the city back to Westchester or to Westchester, not all of it existed, and really created a whole avenue of really gourmet restaurants, Michelin rated restaurants, where, the city, you didn't always have to go into the city. Some places have restaurants in both areas. But it was interesting to watch that whole shift happen where now, when someone's like, hey, let's go into the city, you're like, oh, why? We have it all right here. We have it all right here. No need to go. But yeah,
Yeah.
it is a different world. It's evolved a lot. Yeah, especially since COVID, where there was a big move from Manhattan into Westchester County. The real estate market is really went crazy. It's dying down. There's definitely going to be a flip very soon if it hasn't already started. But it is a wonderful place to live, and I'm very grateful to be here.
Hmm. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, you currently still live in that same area.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm curious. So how would you describe Mamaroneck then, like when you were young, and now, which, well, it may resemble, like you said, some parts of New York City, but mostly it doesn't. How has it changed? How has it evolved?
Well, interesting. When I when I was really young, actually, my parents are both city kids. My mom's from the Bronx, and my dad's from Queens. So my dad drove. My mom never learned how to drive, so we walked
Oh,
everywhere. And the main strip, which was really all there really was back when I was little, was Mamaroneck Avenue. There was a supermarket. There was like a few pizza places, lots of stores. So you basically did everything there. And at night, there was a it, there is a huge Italian neighborhood on that side of town. So at night, it was a lot of bakeries, cafes, I guess you would call it. And they were all spilled out into the streets. So they had tables and chairs in the streets, and everybody was drinking coffee. I'm sure there was some wine in there as well, and smoking cigars. And it was so like wild to walk down the street and see all these people sitting on the street. They're now they're like it's everywhere, you can't escape it. But nobody spoke English. It was everybody spoke
wow.
Italian. So I didn't really know a lot of people that didn't speak English, so that was new to me. And the neighborhood had changed a lot through the years. There's still a very strong old school Italian presence for sure. And now it's just super eclectic. There's over 21 restaurants on that strip right now, and you could find anything. I mean, you could there's French, there's Indian, there's Turkish, there's ramen, there's sushi, all sorts of American, there's Mexican, Bulgarian. I just saw a Bulgarian place there. It's anything you're in the mood for, you could go there and find it. And it's a lot of fun because it's like, I'm hungry, what do you want? I don't know, let's just go cruise the avenue and see what looks good. So it is a lot of fun for sure.
Nice. Okay. Uh, I think one of the most interesting aspects about you is it's like you're the first person I have found in my own personal walk that I have come across where they can claim, yeah, well, I live near New York, but I don't live in it. And it's not Long Island, it's not New Jersey, it's not Connecticut. And I'm thinking, interesting. And it's like, no, we're just a little bit north of the city from what I understand how people who live in New York refer to the area. So interesting. Okay. All
Yeah,
right.
it's funny when we would argue everybody all through growing up. And when I worked in the city, I worked all the way downtown Manhattan, and everybody
Uh,
was mostly from Brooklyn or Staten Island. They'd be like,
right.
"Oh my God, you live upstate." And I'm like,
Right.
"No, I don't live upstate." It's upstate that you got a few more hours before you hit upstate. But it's just
Right.
funny how people that don't live here automatically think it's upstate. I'm like, you be careful what upstate looks like, because
Mhm.
it's just about 2 hours and 45 minutes to Albany, which that to me, like from there on, is
That
upstate.
would be upstate. Right.
But it's
Yeah.
really west. It's more, most of New York is west. So we don't
Okay.
say that though. We say upstate,
Yeah.
which is
Uh,
weird.
I've always found that dynamic that part. I've always found that dynamic very interesting. It's like, wow, okay. Huh. So, what were your interests when you were growing up?
I always wanted to be a dancer. I think I
Mm,
danced the second I could walk. Just love music, and I love to be moving and be active. I also fell in love in in fashion when I was really young, and I think it was exciting when I was young. Like all of a sudden, everything turned into like neon colors and just going rogue and just being crazy. And I feel like between the 70s and 80s is just was such a crazy, fun, wild change in
mhm.
fashion, and people were not afraid to mix match stuff. Like my mom
Right.
had a heart attack the first time she saw a woman wear heels and jeans, and I'm like, that's amazing. And she's like, how does she go out on the street like that? Like, it's just so funny how I think the 70s look like a little not I don't know how to say it, like, it just was so out of uniform from, the 50s and 60s and,
It was,
the
yeah.
big collars and big bell bottoms, and I'm
Mhm,
like, that was like, "What? Where did that come from?" And then, the 80s, everything was just wild colors, and that I found, like, that was wild colors, but people were just experimenting so much
mhm,
with fashion, and it was allowed. Not that I went to school in a uniform or anything, but I love loud colors and I love prepping. Preppy was such a thing, and
mhm.
still get made fun of every day because I always have like a collar, and just preppy colors. I just can't escape it. But that was yeah, that was those were my two passions growing up, definitely.
Oh, wow, and you were in an area that could have serviced both of them.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
Dancing and fashion? Yeah, no
yeah,
question about that, and yeah,
yeah.
and it's so funny. I the next time I'll probably see my mother wear high heels with jeans would be the first. I never saw her wear I never saw her wear that combination either.
Yeah, my mom will not. She's like,
Mm-mm.
"Who are these people?" And I'm like,
Right.
"They're me,"
Yeah.
because I wear it all the
Mm.
time.
I'm like, "Wow, okay. We already have that in common. Okay, cool."
Okay.
Okay, so what was the first sign in childhood of the current life you live now?
I think from birth. I mean, I remember being born, or, I think when I say being born, I don't remember actually like coming out of the birth canal, but I do remember we've figured out that it was my baptism. And so that it's not that far from actually being born, and it is a way of being rebirthed again.
Mhm.
And I just remembered every detail, and I remember a voice just like the age I am now speaking to me and being like, "What is this all about?" Like, I don't know who these people are. Who I don't want to know them. Why can't I talk? Why can't why am I this big? And I'm like, okay, customer service, please. Like, and I literally could see this person with like a cigarette and a martini and just like, this is ridiculous. We're not doing this. Like, we're going back. And you're little and people are like, "Oh, that's so cute." When you're trying to explain to them and you're telling all the details of this day and they're like, "You must have seen pictures." And I'm like, "Well, show me the pictures." And they're like, wait, we don't actually even have pictures."
Mm.
But, luckily my aunt is a person that never forgets what someone was wearing on an event. And she'd be like, "No, that's actually really true." Like that,
Yeah.
really happened. So I realized when I was younger, I was having experiences and I would talk about it and people would be like, "Well, that was a bad dream," or "That didn't really happen," or "Why do you know that?" And I guess I sort of knew I wasn't the same. Like I wasn't on the same wavelength as other people.
Mhm.
And I think I don't think I'm unique. I think everybody goes through an experience like that.
Mhm.
And especially when you're in your teens and in your 20s,
Right.
everybody wants to prove who they are.
Right.
And I realized then I didn't have the same opinion as the people around me, or I didn't think the same way. And I was always in an argument of like, well, why can't you understand where I'm coming from? And
Mm.
everybody else is on the same page. And I'm like, I don't see it that way at all. So I was always that one out person. And I just realized I did have a level of a clairvoyance, and I did see things in a bigger picture, and I saw them in a different way. And I don't say that anybody was wrong. I'm just saying that I was looking at life in from a different view.
Right.
And I stopped trusting what my view looked like because nobody else could see that. And I didn't
Mm.
understand that then of life was being looked at in a different way and it's not wrong. But then I took so much self-doubt to heart instead of the
Oh,
instincts and the trust. And I had to come to a place to be like, okay, I'm completely different and there's something to this. Because I wasn't looking or taking up stats then, but as I got older, I'm like, how come you guys are all right? Like all of you guys are on the same page and you all think you're right, but I'm like, I'm telling you, you're wrong. And then you go through whatever it is and you find out your whole theory was right all along.
Mm.
And I had to stop that cycle and I had to understand more about it. So I did more in depth work on intuition, on who I really am, who, what my connection is to God, what it really means to follow your heart, what it really means to fight fear, judgments, to really get through all of that. And that's half of, you realize how much of your life was run by judgments,
Mhm.
fears, other people's insecurities, and you were not on the same page because you're like, no, but this is how it should be, and nobody's listening to you, so you sort of feel invisible. So then you go
Mm.
through that part of your life of feeling invisible, and someone asks you a question, you're like, why do you even care? Like, can you even
Mm.
see me? Do I even matter anymore? And that becomes a huge depression as well.
Mm.
So what I'm doing now is really just breaking that mold. I've done it for myself,
Mhm.
but watching people do it and go through it and trying to just survive living in it, it's like, no, 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 you don't have to do that. You know, like I want to help you break all of that and really find your true self and live in it and be okay with living in it and learn how to deal with all of these, what I call dream crushers, and living in all this resentment and past and mistakes. That was yesterday. Every passing moment is another chance to turn it all around.
Right.
So what I find that, where I was when I was young and where I am now has completely molded me, and even come full circle to help that little helpless thing find the truth and value and give it validity of what you were going through. If you didn't go through it, you probably would have just had an ego boost and just lived like in this I'm greater than everybody attitude,
Mm.
instead of really living in it and having sympathy now to understand it and to be able to help others and bring others to that higher level with you.
Wow. Wow. That's a great and deep understanding of you knowing your journey to where you are now that early in your life. That is great. Wow.
Thank you.
Well, you definitely have opened the way. I'm looking forward to what the rest of this conversation unearths.
Okay.
Business coach, business consultant, and author Debbie Krusz joins me on Revelations. She just opened the way, and she's accustomed to it because of the area in where she lives, it's now time to walk across the bridge to prosperity. Now, Bridge to Prosperity, it links childhood lessons to adult application. I just have this basic question to ask you. So, what is the significance of either the number or the year 1984?
Wow. I'm in awe that you even mentioned that number, that year. That year means a lot to me. Obviously, there's the book that most people will relate to,
Mm-hmm.
um, but that year was big for me, um, and it comes to me often. It was a year my godfather had passed away,
Mm-hmm.
and he's one person that really let me understand my talent of my huger seeing a bigger picture, having a level of clairvoyance, and having a level of connections with people in the after they pass on in the afterworld. He still sends me signs all the time. He sends me jokes a lot, which is really funny. Um, but I wouldn't know off the top of my head what year he was born, but
Right.
I do know the year that he died, 1984. So I find 1984 pennies everywhere,
Wow.
even to this day. So that's sort of like, hey, that's no coincidence. One day I found a penny 1984. I went in my car. I turned on the car in the radio. I had 80s on 8 on. And
Mm-hmm.
apparently there's a song called 1984. And that came on. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, all right, you're definitely trying to get my attention.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it means a lot to me because I feel like that's the year that it really made a lot of change for me. And um, in my spirituality and knowing who I am and finding the depth of that. And, uh, I always look to that year. When I hear it, I'm like, that's a really strong sign of, pay attention to your intuition,
Mm-hmm.
stay true to who you are, know your worth and know your value. So it is sort of a little bit of a check in. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
intrigued to where that came from,
Ah.
unless you did a lot of homework.
Mhm. Well, that's what I supposed to do as an interviewer is the interview. Yes, I did some research. I even heard a couple of your interviews, and
Oh.
I heard that particular nugget was really significant. So I said, okay, well, let me ask about it.
Oh, I'm highly impressed. Thank you. That's so sweet.
No, no problem, no problem. And I loved the story when I heard it. So I was like, okay, well,
Oh,
I definitely have to ask this. All
yeah.
right. So jumping ahead a little bit, where did you go to undergraduate college, I should say, and what was your major?
Undergraduate, I went to Iona College, but as of like 2 weeks ago, we are now Iona University.
See,
So
I'm
that's
learning
pretty
something new just now. Okay.
very exciting, which is a really exciting.
Hmm.
I was not supposed to go to Iona. I was supposed to go to a school in Rhode Island to be part of their dance program, and
Hmm.
under my minor was going to be business management. So I wanted to start my own dance company. I went to Iona. I was a business major because it was sort of a choice of like
Mm,
business or bachelor's of science, which most people became a teacher.
right.
I was like, I don't think I want to be around children all day. I just felt business, made more sense to me because I was sort of told the dream was to get a really good job and, work up the corporate ladder. So I was like, all right,
Hmm.
well, I guess that's what I'm going to do. And,
Mm,
wasn't my dream of where I wanted to go, but at the same time, it's still giving me back a lot more than what I ever thought a college education would give me. I do a mentor program with Iona, as well as where I went for graduate school at the University
mhm,
of Bridgeport. I do a mentor program with them as well.
mhm,
I'm don't live far away from where I went to undergrad, so I'm over there a lot. I know a lot of the students. My sorority is still very strong, so I know a lot of them and keep in touch with them. Get to some basketball games, and hopefully this year we will make it to the big dance again. And it's fun. Like it's a wonderful community. I have a lot of people friends that work there, and work on some projects with some of the departments over there. So it is a wonderful place, and I'm grateful to be a part of it.
Nice. Okay. Yeah.
Thanks.
So I'm glad that you still have sounds like a strong connection with Iona. That really is good.
Yes.
Okay. So how did you handle life immediately after undergrad?
I was told you're not going to sit around. You're going to have a job when that Monday, wherever you graduate, that Monday
Mm,
you will start a job. I'm like, okay,
wow.
it's a little aggressive.
Hmm.
But I was recruited for a company that there was a significant amount of alumni there. And I did. I graduated on a Saturday, and I started on a Monday, and I worked at that company for 10 years. So that was some serious longevity working in downtown Manhattan. And excuse me, I thankfully worked the night shift, which was 4 to midnight. It was a 24/7 operation. And I, you know, did not love all of working nights because it was hard to be in your 20s and
Of
be in
course.
an office when all your friends are like calling you, like, we're at happy hour and having a
Yeah.
great time. You're like, I'm at work right now.
That,
Uh,
yeah.
but when September 11th happened, I mean, it would have been right there. So I'm like, well, there's definitely a sign of God right there
Hmm.
of protect, you didn't understand what I was doing, and now I'm telling you why. It is so you would not have to be there. So I'm grateful for that moment. I mean, it was a horrible day, and we all
Yeah.
will remember it no matter where we are. But I'm just grateful that I wasn't there. So
Good.
yeah,
Well, now I am grateful you weren't there too. So
thank you.
great. All right. Your first impressions of corporate America, we'll delve into it even further. But your first impressions of it, did you like it? Did you hate it? Not necessarily the hours you work, but just the atmosphere in which corporate America brings. Did you like it or did you not like it?
I don't think where I was a very typical office. And it's funny. I have a lot of friends that are teachers or just not in a corporate setting, and they're like, "Oh, is your job just like The Office, the show?" And I'm like, "No, no." That it's just not the same. We were in an environment. Once again, we was a 24/7 operation, so it was like high and heavy at most of the time of the day during the week. It was also at a big height of the market right back then. And it was crazy busy and everybody was running around. It was basically being the same as being on the stock market floor, but we were in an
Right.
office and we were working with the Securities and Exchange Commission. So, you think of a world back when it was basically all paper,
Hmm.
and so you're throwing paper all over the place and throwing
Right.
people on planes to get to DC, to the Securities and Exchange Commission. It wasn't like the typical office of like, I show up at 9, I get my
Hmm.
coffee, I sit at the water cooler for an hour. I go and, make some phone calls, and then I go into a conference room. It just wasn't like that. I did like the hustle and bustle of it. I did like just the craziness of it because it became a drug of, it's such a rush to get things done and accomplished in this like really tight time frame, and how everybody worked together, and then it was just like, all right, the next thing, just move on. And that
Yeah.
it wasn't there was when time went on, the monotony really set in, and it just became ultra boring after a while, because the seasons of the year, there is so many lows, but there's just so many highs as well. And when
Hmm.
the market dies, it's like super dead. So that
Mm,
became boring. And then, people look for trouble when it gets boring,
of
which,
course.
isn't that great.
Right.
Um, but being in other companies that were more of the traditional 9 to 5, being in an office, being in that environment, I think because I had the experience I had, there wasn't the excitement. It was just everybody sitting at their desk, do what they have to do. Phone rang, you answered it. You took lunch when you took lunch. You left when sort of there was a world too in some places where it's like, I could stay at work longer. No, I could stay at work longer.
Right.
I'm like, I'm leaving.
Right.
So there was like, I wanted to love it more, and if I was in more of those situations that were faster paced, make faster decisions, and get things done, more project based, quick work, I would have loved it more.
Hmm.
I thankfully had a lot of jobs where I didn't sit in the office all day, where
Okay.
I was out, I was visiting clients, I was not only all over Manhattan, I was all over the country. And that, when you start doing it, is wonderful, because you're someplace else and you meet people all over and you make a lot of connections. But then again, you find the monotony of the lows are really loud, and
Right.
it becomes, the bad weather, and you're stuck in some city that the airport shut down like 4 hours before you got there, and you got to figure out how to get a hotel. Those things get draining really fast. The clients, when you have the same clients for years and years, it's just boring and monotonous of, are we moving this along or not? So the glamour got lost really, really early. And I kept thinking like, well, if I went higher up, it would be much better. And it really wasn't.
Oh, perfect.
Oh.
Perfect. 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 Perfect place to leave there. Uh, and I can understand that. I can understand how the rush of the task being something that you'd want to do, but the monotony of seeing many days that look relatively the same would get to you, especially in the age that you were when you were in the, as they call it, rat race. I can totally understand that.
Yeah.
I can totally understand that. Well, I think we have now walked across the bridge to prosperity. Business coach, business consultant, and author. And we will get to the penmanship. Debbie Krusz joins me on Revelations. She just walked across the bridge. She's already opened the way, and now it is time to get behind the purpose. Now, this is the reason why we function the way we do. Now, you earlier, in fact, in the last segment, you talked about getting your master's degree. Uh, just curious, you also mentioned how involved you are in your undergraduate alma mater. How involved are you with your master's alma mater?
Yeah, I've done mentor programs with them as well. And I actually still stay in touch with them. I've made some really strong connections with some of the students there. One woman in particular, she had such a fascinating story and situation during COVID. Um, if it's all right that I share.
Oh, go ahead, please.
Yeah. So, we did a bunch of sessions when I was doing mentor programming, and it was started during COVID. So everything is obviously on a Zoom call.
Hmm.
And, they had topics of, what about how do you go? I don't even remember all of it. Like maybe it was about how to find a job, keywords, that kind of stuff. And then they were able to pick one of the mentors that they wanted to go into a private room with. So, a bunch of
Hmm.
students would pick somebody and go and talk personally to be able to ask more direct questions. And if they picked somebody that they wanted to work on one-on-one, we were able to offer some sessions. So this woman, she was from Morocco, and she was there on a visa for international studies. I think she was going for like her third master's in marketing, if I remember correctly.
Hmm.
And she was in a place of, she had finished her studies, but her country had closed the doors, and it's COVID. And, she's sort of in no man's land, but the only way she could stay legally was to get a job within 3 months. And it had to be like, something in her field. It wasn't like go work at McDonald's right now.
Hmm.
It had to be something, in her field. And she was scared. And I'm like, we're gonna do it. We're gonna get you there. So get her resume together, get her prepared for interviewing, get her in front of people right away. And we were able to do it. And she really took the ball after just, one or two sessions. She's like, all right, I think I got this. She was getting the second interviews. She was so dynamic and wonderful. I mean, she still is dynamic and wonderful.
Hmm.
And it was fascinating to see just the power of determination and the power of just giving back to these students. And I mean, the situation was just like, wow. I mean, I think during COVID you had some leeway. I don't want to mess around and speak for what countries were doing.
Right.
But I mean, she was a level of I'm a little nervous, like I'm a little scared here. What can happen, you know?
Hmm.
But now she's in a job, and I think she had moved to a new job since then. But you know, she's loving it, and you know, she's was grown up believing that going to Manhattan for a job is exciting, and you know, after me doing it for over 20 years, I'm like, it's really not. Find that out for yourself. But no, I mean, it's wonderful. And we just, just realized, how connected we were, and, based on our spirituality, and especially being extremely different, not extremely different, just different religions, but
Right.
having so much in common in our relationship with God, and learning about how cool she really is, and just how much she's growing and wants to learn, and wants to just really embrace the whole business world was
Mhm.
just wonderful. How it was such a passion of hers. So I'm grateful to meet her and all the other students that I was able to mentor while we did that program. And I believe they're going to bring it back again this year. So hopefully I'll get to be able to see some people in person this time.
Good. Good.
Yeah.
It looks like that you will be able to do a lot for them.
Yeah.
Uh, all right. So I got a three-part question for you. Now, in the
Oh,
last
okay.
segment, you talked about how corporate America was for you, and you ended pretty much where I loved for you to end, because I think I can have you talk about the second part of it here. How far did you advance in the business world? When did you leave corporate America? And how prepared were you to start your new life away from it?
I moved my way up the ladder. I became a COO of a hospital. It was an interim position.
Mm,
And, I was told to climb the corporate ladder, and you'll make more money, and more money makes you happy, and a bigger title is going to give you more prestige. And it made me miserable. I was so depressed. I was in a horrible place, and then the money just didn't matter to me.
mm,
And I wasn't supposed to be there permanently anyway. So there just came, I was able to hire the right people to fill these spots. It just did not feel, it didn't fulfill me. It wasn't fulfilling them. They needed somebody that was more on the political angle and wanted to really be there for the longevity of it. If it was somewhere else, I might have answered differently.
mm-hmm.
Um, so I left there in about, I believe it was 2017.
Okay.
Um, I did, listen to what was on my heart. God's been probably telling me this for 100 years, but I decided that day to listen. And he's like, leave and just start writing. I want you to start writing. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to do it this time, because I'm miserable and I'm afraid of what I might do to myself if I stay. So I'm just going to leave. And whatever it is, it is. Was I prepared? No. I didn't want to be on my own. I didn't want to have my own business. I had started my own business when I was in graduate school, actually, to gain experience, to get into a big company. And, that dream of the 401k is going to save you, and,
Right.
all of that. And I was like, wait, I don't want this. And now I have to do it alone. I don't think I want that. And I
Right.
wasn't 100% sure where my focus was supposed to be. But
Mm-hmm.
then again, I didn't listen to what I was told. I was told to leave my job and to write. And I did. I wrote 3 books in 9 months.
Mm-hmm.
But then I was like, well, what am I supposed to do now? I'm going to need to make money, and because my money's going to run out. So I was scrambling to figure out what I was supposed to do. And then I just hit a wall, and I'm like, I don't, I don't know how I got myself tangled into this mess.
Mm,
And I saw a friend of mine had sent out a mass email, and he had just lost his job. I didn't even know that. And he's like, listen, I need a job. I got 3 kids. They go to expensive schools, and, you know, these are my credentials. You all know me. You know me very well. And if you can help me out and get me in a job, that would really, that's all I'm asking. He got a job in less than a month. And he's like, it's better than any job I've ever had or what I even dreamed that I could have. And I'm
Mhm.
like, I'm going to do that. If it worked for you, I'm going to do it. So I sent out an email like, hey, I'm looking for work. I know, you guys know me. If you have anything, however I worded it, I had a friend that was a few close people that were very high profile recruiters. And a lot of people that worked at really amazing places. So I didn't think I had anything to lose. And then there was one person on my list that I'm like, oh, I don't know. We talk about business all the time. Like, I know his industry really well. I know a lot about it. And
Mhm.
I don't know why I toyed with it, but the last minute I just threw him in there. I'm like, what's the harm? And he's the only one that called me.
Mhm.
And we ended up working on a non-for-profit together, which was a missionary program. It was amazing and beautiful. We had ended at the end. We had 25 missionaries in the Bronx, and they were from all over the world. So unfortunately, we had to send everybody home, and the program had to shut down for now.
Mhm.
It will open up again. It'll just be some time before that happens. But I had a lot of plans of what I wanted to do in some directions of what I wanted to do, but I felt the passion of this is really important. This work is really important to pour myself into this missionary program. And I'm grateful that I did. But because of the abruptness of how the world changed, I sort of got lost again but you didn't listen. You were supposed to be writing. So I, went into just
There.
jumped into all the other plans that I had. And, I got stuck. And I, recently have learned that, listening to the plan is what saves me. But
Mhm.
it doesn't mean it was never the voice of write a book. It has to be a book. It's just said writing. So, working more now on taking a little break from my blog and making sure that it has more depth in that, because I feel like you can touch people faster with a blog, and they can always go back and read a book.
Mhm.
But if you can get your audience through your blog, um, to be able to do more work in speaking engagements like this, where people can understand your word and get yourself out there. So I feel like writing is putting, what I want the world to know on paper, but also I think writing, you have to write to be able to speak it as well. You have to live it too.
Mhm.
So I feel a little bit more comforted in being able to do more speaking and working with people one-on-one and having it all written out, how to help people, and then focus now on the blog that can really help people. And my next novel, I'm in the middle of writing it, but I want to take a little bit of a break right now because I want to go back and change things to
Mhm.
really reflect that feeling of we've all felt this, and make sure that those emotions are really heartfelt and not rushed through, because I was rushing through it just to get it done. And I want to really make sure that this book really can touch everybody and be relatable, and you just feel like, wow, if I really listen to what's in my heart, it'll really save me. It'll really get me to those beautiful destinations. So I think we started at mentoring, and I hope I didn't lose track.
No, you sufficiently answered the question because I figured it was more than just, well, I had this direction and I decided to take the leap, and happily ever after, here I am. I figured it was uh, a, a a a path that took many detours,
Yes. So that there you go.
and I was not surprised. It was the path that took many detours, but it was good that you took them because you learned a lot about learned a lot about yourself. I can hear and I can see, and I'm looking forward to hearing even more of that because I think we've just discovered what's behind your purpose. business coach, business consultant, former corporate America flag waver, and author Debbie Krusz joins me on Revelations. She has opened the way. She's walked across the bridge. She just gave us her reason for who she is and what she does and why she is the way she is. And now it is time to bring it all to light. Now, all of us shine in a unique way, and Debbie is of no exception. Now, if I were to mention the names Precious and Fragile Things, Live to Tell, and Soul Meets Body, what would these things mean to you? And what did you learn about yourself after completing those three bits I just mentioned?
Well, those are my three novels. All of those titles are based off of songs. And I chose
Mhm.
them
I
because
thought so.
I found that when I went to go write a song, I just had a song on repeat or like a really short playlist. And they sort of, the mood of those songs basically molded the books. The first one, Precious and Fragile Things, is after that song, the song Precious by Depeche Mode.
Hmm.
And that first one was, was really the direction of just start writing. And I did. And I didn't really have a lot of rhyme or reason of what it was going to be about. I just sort of let it drive me. And there was many times where I'm hitting the keyboard and I'm like, I don't even know that I'm really here. Like my fingers are going, but I'm not really sure that I'm the one doing the work.
Hmm.
And there's so many things that came out of that book. It was way emotional for me, but people would read it and be like, "Oh my God, how did you match this and get all that tied together?" I'm like, "Oh, it is. It's all tied together. It worked out. Like great." So it was realizing. I realized that it was me telling of how I came from my previous life into this life without even really understanding it myself.
Hmm.
And I didn't really know that it was going to be so directly reflected, but it was a way for me to express all the things that had happened to me growing up that I couldn't express because nobody could relate to what I was going through or understand. And it is about a journey of life. It's about your connections. It's about learning who you are, knowing that you have to live in trust, and you may not know what your next move is, but know that you're taken care of. And the book, I decided to do a sequel right after that because I was just so emotionally attached. There's too many unanswered questions, so I wanted to make sure those all got answered. And that book, I feel like, really focused on forgiveness. I
Hmm.
mean, it is still about following your heart, but about forgiveness. And you know every choice you make does reflect on the people around you. So if you make a poor choice, a lot of people have to pay that consequence. And if you make a positive choice, people live in that consequence. So there's a good and there's a bad. And what if you chose good? Like what if
Hmm.
you chose what was in your heart? What if you chose what was the divine right thing instead of what you think would look good or you're worried about being judged? And watch how you change the whole dynamic of all these people that are in your circles of saying, okay, I forgive you and I'm ready to move on, and how everybody's life changes for the better. But those poor choices you made, look at how it diminishes everybody.
Hmm.
My third book, Soul Meets Body, I it's not related. It is a book about following your heart.
Hmm.
It was based off of you a lot that I was going through emotionally and trying to figure out my journey and what I was really supposed to do. Because again, I wasn't listening to you're supposed to be writing. It's just, it was there and then it wasn't there. It will always find you.
Mhm.
So, I was realizing that there was a lot of situations and one relationship in particular where it was like you really put quite a twist to it. That's not how I see it. Um, and I'm like, well, maybe I'm not. Maybe I'm not looking at everything from the right lens. Maybe I'm not looking at it correctly. I did have a lot of victim mentality in my mental state at that time, where I was like, the world is against me, everything's against me, and it was a lot of the spirituality fighting with me because I wasn't living my true self and I
Right.
wasn't listening to that. So all those walls I felt was like, it was like I was doing something wrong or I just deserved it, and again, all the judgments and the negative, it just keeps lowering you down. So I was like, well, maybe I need to look at it from a different lens, look at it from somebody else.
Mhm.
And I just sort of let a story take itself on a journey. And what would this character's heart lead them to? What would this character's heart take them to? And just show that by following your heart and really listening to your intuition, how you always come ahead, no matter how impossible and crazy it looks, you always come up ahead, and you never are led to bad directions once you always look at the positive that your heart is directing you. So I am excited about them. Some of them, there's a level of vulnerability that you put in there that's like, oh, I wrote that, huh? But I think it is important. I'm fine with the vulnerability because I feel like I was wearing it on my sleeve for so long, and now it's gone. So it really helped people relate to their own situations and to when they're going through a change in their life of not understanding who their true purpose is. And I really want this next novel that I'm writing to reflect that in a deeper way, in a more direct way, that can help people.
Mm. I looked at the titles of your book, and I saw the Live to Tell one, and I said, "Oh, great! I'm getting the Madonna theme in my head. I could hear the song playing." I was like, "She couldn't be writing. She couldn't title these books after the songs that no, no." And now you actually said that, which now makes me
Yeah.
think I'm surprised you didn't have you have a book that's titled "Heart of the Matter." But
No, actually, what's really funny is I was listening to like a total remastered, sort of like a techno version of the song, and
hmm
and then I had both going on, but that song is really is emotional,
hmm
and because I was a Madonna fan back in the
hmm
day, and I
hmm
did have lace gloves, sorry,
hmm
and a big ugly bow.
hmm
But she was in a place in her life where she just became somebody.
hmm
She just really hit stardom, and it hit her hard. And I think, if I remember correctly, and I hope to not be quoted, but I think she wrote that song.
She co-wrote it. She
Yep, she
co-wrote that
did.
song.
Okay, yeah, yeah, yeah. And that was like a big deal to get it on that album because it was for a movie.
hmm
Um, so I mean, I look at those things of like, that was a huge turning point for her, and that was a huge hit.
Yeah.
And the emotions of what that feels like for that person, and there's that moment in the song where it just dies out, and then she just comes back like a sort of like acoustic, no music.
hmm
That to me is like, oh, that's the best part.
Yeah.
And the line, how will they hear, how will they know?
hmm
So it's like it is sort of a record of a life, the book. And it's like, I look at it when I talk about the forgiveness of it. It's like, how will they hear, how will they know? But they'll know by, they don't have to know it was you. They know, they'll reap the benefits of it by you choosing the positive way of life,
Right.
giving them. So I sort of look at it like that, like we
hmm
have a story to tell, and the family will live the legacy of like, look at this the character in the book, Valerie was the character.
Hmm.
Valerie, look at what she did for us, and look at this, and so I look at it as live to tell. Like her story will live to tell, and she has a journey that really was about fulfilling her sole purpose of just believing in God and having trust.
Yeah. Funny connection to me. The book to you and the song to Madonna, just judging by her trajectory in music, that seemed to be when she made a hardcore shift to become more vulnerable,
Yeah.
to give us a deeper glimpse into who she was. And she didn't give off the pop star vibe. She gave off the, oh, this is the girl from Detroit vibe. And I get the feeling that this is the book that we got a chance to look at you, the girl from outside of New York City. And this was probably an unflinching glimpse into who you are as the soul of the person. Because if the song of the tale is what I believe it is, that song digs deep into it within the soul of a person. So if that's the case,
Yeah.
you dug deep within yours to write that book. And
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
Wow. All right. So I saw this interesting term that this moniker that you gave yourself, the dream pollinator. So what does that mean?
Well, in digging into who I truly am, and really being getting to know myself on this journey, I've found that my name, Deborah, in Hebrew, is known as the bee seeker. And somehow I had some weird interactions with, bees, where everybody's like terrified of bees. And I'd be like, no, come, come in. They'd come and just sit on my arm, or, anything. And I
Mhm.
wouldn't be afraid. And I never got stung, thankfully.
Mm,
Um, and I never really, I didn't know my origin of my name, but a few people who are into shamanism and that kind of spirituality had said to me, I believe that, that is your spirit animal. And one guy looked it up and he's like, do you know that that's what your name means? And I'm like, no.
mm,
So I kind of took a play on it of like, hey, that's like my team mascot, right? So what would the bee do? And so the bees are an amazing creature. I mean, it's impossible for them to fly. They only want success for everything and everybody around them, and they work really hard. They do impossible things. They don't stop. They work as a strong team. They respect their
mm,
mother bee and what she wants for them, and what direction she gives them. They'll do anything to defend her, and they make everything beautiful. So I realized, what I found that I was really good at all my jobs was looking at people and really seeing deep inside of them of, you're in the wrong job. You're in the wrong place. And I get it. Like, we're all here for a paycheck. And some people
mm,
just got like, I need a check and I don't care. And then you're in a job that you don't love. You're not doing well at it. The job's not giving you the materials and tools to be successful. And then all of a sudden you get to a place where you could potentially lose your job. And I'm like, this is horrible. I don't love this. And I learned how to use that skill set of, hey, you're in the wrong job. Like, this isn't for you.
mm,
Or, hey, you guys have a lot of potential. What's going on here? And be able to work with them one on one. At one job, I created a leadership program that was these people that were on that verge of, we're going to get fired. So I was like, listen,
mm,
this is the game. You got 1 year, and I'm going to give you all the tools and skill sets and all the people you need for you to succeed. And I want you to figure out where you want to be, what you want to do. I'll work with you. And I want you have 1 year to get yourself into that next level, whatever that looks like. And as long as you are happy and you perform and you bring your A game, that's all I'm asking. Then you can get your whatever your past history sort of swiped away as much as I possibly can. If that's what you want to stay, you want to leave, I'll help you get a job. I'll help you get the right job to get out of here. That's fine. And I realized that I had done some work in statistics of like, I brought that to another company and I had gotten over 500 people in less than 5 years into their next level of whatever that looked like for them.
Hmm.
And, there's some amazing, beautiful stories for that comes from that. And I realized, why do I have to be at a company to do that? I could do that for people on my own. And then, I'm not stuck to company boundaries or worried about what I say and, how I say it. So I just feel like I could see inside of you, and I know that you're given a dream for a reason. And I just want to, spark, throw some pollination out there and help you make beautiful flowers and help the world around you be beautiful and help you be a beautiful person so that the people around you become beautiful. And I just want to pollinate that. So I felt like dream pollinator just sounded like a fun term that people smile when they say it. They're like, that sounds great. Like, what is that? It's a great conversation starter. But,
Hmm.
I believe that you're here for a reason, and you're here to smile. You're not here to cry and be upset and be somewhere you don't want to be. You're here to flourish and grow and be the best that you can. And I just want to help people get there.
Mm. And look at all the lessons you learned by being a mentor at both of your alma maters. Uh, and what you've learned about yourself as a child and what you've learned about yourself as an author, and it just combines itself beautifully into what you do when you service these businesses as a consultant, as a coach. And it's great that you actually have the experience of being in corporate America, and you'd say, okay, yeah, I get it. The rat race can suck, and it probably does suck for you now. But look at it this way. Here's probably a tool here that could probably help switch that. And if you all the way want to get out, okay, I think I have a tool that can help you ease into your transition away from here. That is awesome. Wow. That is awesome. So I've talked about your businesses. I talked about your a little bit about your consulting, talked about your academic career along with being in corporate America, talked about even your author life. But your faith, how much of a role does faith play in your life?
I mean, I can't function in my life if I don't have it. I mean, it plays my whole day. If I don't have faith, then I wouldn't be here. I definitely wouldn't be here. It's what keeps me alive for sure. It's my energy, my juice. What do you call
Hmm.
it? Your recharge button. Bad day, good day. Give praise all day. I mean, I don't know how to live my life any other way.
Mm, wow. Now that is a statement right there. And I'm so thankful that you bring the light, I should say, to so many people in your walk. I'm so glad that you exist.
Oh,
Oh,
thank you. That's
mm,
beautiful. Thank you.
no, no problem.
I'm glad that you exist.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Wonderful. It was no coincidence for us to have this moment, so I am grateful for
Mm-mm,
that.
totally. Business consultant, business coach, author, and all around good person. Debbie Krusz joins me on Revelations. And now it is time in the program that we have her do a little plug tuning. Now, this is, of course, in reference to hip hop group De La Soul. And this is when the guest gets a chance to plug whatever is on, in this case, her heart, mind, soul, spirit, whether it's a book, whether it's a service, whether it is you want to plug something else. It doesn't matter. Whatever you want to plug to have the people understand where to find you and what to get from you, the floor is yours.
Oh, thank you so much. I would love to just tell all your listeners that you are divinely made on purpose and that you have dreams on your heart for a reason, and don't let them sit on a shelf. I know it sounds sometimes a little impossible and difficult to feel your situation and think, I can't do it because I can't, because there's never a right time to make that choice. But whatever time you make will always be the right time. And if you need help, I'd love to help you get there. I would love to offer to all your listeners a free 15-minute consultation. I would also love to offer to everybody a free download of Soul Meets Body, my last novel that was out. And you can find me on my website, which is DEBBYKRUSZ. And that's my website, DEBBYKRUSZ.com. Social media is the same, DEBBYKRUSZ. You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube as well.
Wow. Well, there you have it. And we will have all the things that you can, all the places you can find her in the show notes as well. Ladies and gentlemen, one more time for author, business coach, business consultant, Debby Krusz. Thank you so much for joining me on Revelations.
Oh, thank you, Cole. It was my pleasure. I really appreciate it.
Many thanks to Debby Krusz for giving us her perspective on life. And why don't you join us every single Tuesday on YouTube, where you will get a different perspective from a different person being interviewed by me each week. For changing the world, one conversation at a time, I'm Cole Johnson, and this has been Revelations. Thank you for tuning into Revelations. To download this episode, go to Acast and type Revelations. For apparel, go to Spring and type Revelations. Music by Lakey Inspired.